Once again, it's on. You know what time it is. It's time to play some toss. Welcome, everyone, to episode 82. Man, that was a great year. The year I was born in. 82 of the Tristain on Sports Show Toss. This is your main man, T-Square, Tristain Thomas. Thank you all so very much for joining us. It's an all-NBA edition of Toss this week because the playoffs are beginning. We are in the midst of the pit, a.k.a. the NBA's play-in tournament. We haven't talked about Milwaukee Bucks. Where did they end up? What do I think about their first round matchup against a familiar foe? Time for some get back. In the Toss Week, we talk about NBA predictions and reality. So we go back, hold myself accountable for what I said in episode 62 on my playoff predictions. And what is the reality? How did I do? And then we'll talk about first round predictions of these matchups. But you all know how we get things started here on Toss. We get things started with the state of the state, and let's talk about those Milwaukee Bucks. Ended up 46-26. Third seed in the Eastern Conference, which is exactly what I thought they would get. The 76ers were a little bit too far ahead. The Brooklyn Nets kind of righted the ship. Got those couple of wins they needed. Held on to the 2 seed. But they're right there in at number 3, as I thought they would be. And like I said, not that it matters, because the 1 seed did them no good the last 2 seasons. The 1 seed was meaningless because they still failed to win a championship as a 1 seed. Doesn't mean squat. Would you love to have home court advantage? Of course you would. I don't think there's anybody that's going to argue that point. You would love to have home court advantage. But that was not to be. And you're talking home court advantage throughout the playoffs. But that wasn't to be. And you're going to have to win some games on the road in order to get some series done anyway. Make it a little bit easier on yourself. So they end up with the 3 seed. Now, this season, with there only being 72 games, winning 46 is like winning 56. So essentially, they went 56-26. If you won 50 games this season, it's like you won 60. So very good season for those guys. I think there was a lot learned this season because they didn't have the regular season dominance that we had all become accustomed to them having in the regular season. And as weird as this is going to sound, I'm happy for that. I'm glad there was some adversity. I'm glad that they had to learn different things and learn different ways to win ball games throughout the season, because that's not something that they were challenged with the first 2 seasons under Mike Budenholzer. It was straight dominance on a different level than any other team. It was historic dominance. If you go and look at net rating, you're talking about being up there with the Warriors. You're talking about being up there with the Bulls. That's the type of air and dominance the Bucks were having first 2 seasons under Mike Budenholzer. But again, that regular season dominance did not teach this team anything. And it got them bounced earlier than what they would have liked past 2 seasons. Eastern Conference Finals appearance, lost to the Raptors, who eventually won the NBA championship. You get bounced in the second round to the eventual Eastern Conference champion Miami Heat just last season. The regular season really taught them nothing. It really did not teach them how to play through adversity. It did not teach them how to win different kinds of ball games. I've said this ad nauseum on this program and many others. You're not going to be playing against the bottom feeders of the league in the playoffs. The first round, sure, if you're the 1 seed, you're going to go up against the 8th seed. In the Eastern Conference, that's usually a team that's under 500, just barely scraped their way into the playoffs. Sure, you could probably dog walk them. But then you get to that second round and you're dealing with a higher seed and a much better team, much better players. The game is different in the playoffs. It slows down. Possessions are magnified. Tendencies are learned and shown and taken advantage of, and picked at incessantly until you do something different. Everything is magnified come playoff time. You have to be able to play under that microscope. That's what's coming from the Milwaukee Bucks. That's really what came in the regular season with them having to win games different ways. Now, they do have a tendency to be top heavy. We got Giannis and Chris and Drew. Brooke when he's on. Then you got the bench players. You got Bobby Portis. You got Bryn Forbes. Thanasis, who is now out for a couple of weeks because he got injured in the season finale. You got Pat. But those guys don't always bring it. You know we keep it truthful, opinionated, passionate here on Toss, and I'm telling you right now, those guys do not always bring their lunch pail to come and get to work. They do not always earn their pay. There have been many single-digit scoring games from this bench. There have been times where this bench has been non-existent and completely reliant on the starting lineup. That's not good enough. That cannot consistently happen in the playoffs. Otherwise, you are going to get bounced early. Now, Bucks were able to win games in spite of that. But again, that was the regular season. This is postseason. You got to be on top of your game at all times. Otherwise, you're getting bounced. Now, I mentioned in the rundown, Bucks will be facing a familiar foe. They'll be going up against the 6th seed Miami Heat. This time it ain't in the bubble. This time the series starts at Fiserv Forum. Different roster for the Bucks. Almost the same exact roster for the Heat. Begins Saturday at 1 p.m. Central Standard Time. I'm ready for it. Fear the Deer season is upon us. You would think, and from talking to people about the series, and even before we knew the series was going to be official, speaking with them, and this was the team that they had a healthy fear of. PTSD is real. Man, this is the team that we didn't want to see. Man, we're about to get bounced. And I get it. The way that the Bucks were dominated by the Heat in the semifinals last season was shocking. Absolutely shocking. And I get the fear. And you would think that that series had something to do, or will have something to do, with this season. Chris Middleton was asked, use proper English, please, was asked if there was impact on losing to the Heat on this team last playoffs, heading into this series against them. And he said, quote unquote, no. He said none. None. And to a certain extent, I get it. You can't allow what happened in the past hold you back from trying to be better. You can't let that fear of what happened in the past and have that innate fear that, oh, because it happened then, it's going to happen now. The same exact thing that happened last year in the bubble is going to happen this year on Fiserv Forum. or American Airlines Arena, or where the Heat play. And I get what Middleton means. I get what he means. You can't go into any game with fear of anyone. So from that aspect, I get what he's trying to say, that there's no impact. But I'm telling you, this is Tristain Thompson. This is T Squared. I'm telling you, it better have an impact on what you do in this playoff series. What happened last season in the bubble, what happened last playoffs in that bubble, better have an effect on you this playoff series. And I'll tell you why. Because you have to learn from your mistakes. You have to learn from your mistakes. You didn't exactly play well against the Heat this season. They were still every bit of a challenge for you this regular season. A lot of what they did in the playoffs last season, they did in the regular season this season. And still had you struggling. You have to learn from that series. You have to learn from the games this regular season. So in effect, what happened in the bubble had better have some sort of an effect on what you do this playoff series. Because you have to learn from your mistakes. It's like I said, they will find something, a tendency within you, and they will gnaw at it and pick at it and claw at it until you decide to do something different. And that's been the big knock on Mike Budenholzer, right? He doesn't make adjustments, and if he does, they're too late. And I think this regular season, he's done a better job of making adjustments sooner. I think he's done a better job of trying different things and getting these guys prepared to play different kinds of games in the playoffs, because that's what's going to happen. You're going to have to learn how to win games in a different way. You're going to have a lot of different things thrown at you. You have to learn how to overcome those things and how to win games in different ways. You're not always going to be able to just bomb another team from three. Sometimes you're just going to be off. So what's your plan B? How are you going to get buckets? You have to sustain some type of defensive energy, because that has been lacking from this team. And I thought I would not say that, but they have not been the best defensive team this year. They've been a little bit better as of late. Definitely the highest scoring team. But their bread and butter was not only just being able to score, but being able to defend. They were elite on both ends of the court. That hasn't been the case. So you have to figure out the things that worked, the things that didn't, and how you got bounced in 5 games last season in the playoffs to this very team, the Miami Heat. So in that effect, for me, it had better have some sort of effect on what you do. Because if it doesn't, that means you learned nothing. And if the rumblings are true that this playoff run is attached to Mike Budenholzer's future as head coach of the Milwaukee Bucks, then you'd better allow it to have some sort of learning effect on what you do this season. The Heat aren't quite where they were last season. A lot of injuries, missing some guys. But they are still tough. Eric Spoelstra is still one of the better coaches in all of the NBA. He does not get the credit he deserves. I truly believe that. But even with the Heat still being tough, even with them still posing a threat to the Milwaukee Bucks, even with them still being a tough matchup for the Milwaukee Bucks, you all know what I'm about to say. All day, Bucks in 6. I don't care. Bucks in 6. It's going to be a tough challenge. Yes, it is. But I think the Bucks are up to that challenge. I think the Bucks will learn from what happened in the bubble playoffs last year. I think they will take what they did well and what they didn't do well in this year's matchups against the Heat and learn from all of that and be the better team this time around. So I have them advancing to the second round. I have them beating the Miami Heat. I have them winning this quote-unquote revenge battle. The Bucks may not look at it that way, but I think a lot of Bucks fans out there licking their chops at the chance of revenge or redemption, whichever way you want to look at it. But for me, it's Bucks in 6. Again, they start their quest for an NBA championship this Saturday, 1 p.m. Central Standard Time. Fans in a Fiserv Forum, they're allowing more fans in there, so there's going to be a little bit more electricity, a little bit more juice. It's playoff time, y'all. Get excited. It's time for us to run the toss sweep. Toss Sweep, brought to you by the good folks over at Toss Nation Media. TossNationMedia.com, your home for the Toss brand of sports. Truthful, opinionated, passionate sports. It's what you deserve. I mentioned before, it is playoff time, y'all. It is playoff time. Get excited. That's that. Y'all remember those Nike commercials, the LeBron puppet and the Kobe puppet? LeBron's running around, get excited, clapping his hands with the dust. Kobe puppet was just annoyed because he's trying to get focused. That's where that line came from, just in case y'all had questions. But it is playoff time, y'all, and it's time for us to hold ourselves accountable, or me to hold myself accountable for my predictions. Now, in episode 62, I made some predictions on what teams I felt would make the NBA playoffs this season. Based on what I had seen, based on acquisitions. You could go back and listen to that episode. This was right before the season began. Make those predictions. Let's see what I got right and what I got wrong. Let's start off in the Eastern Conference. My predictions. Now, these are my predictions, and they are in no particular order. So I don't want to get any DMs, and I don't want to get any tweets at the 20 double on Twitter saying, "Oh, well, you said the Bucks were going to be the 1 seed, and they end up being the 3 seed. Well, you got that wrong." No, my predictions are in no particular order. They were in no particular order then. They are in no particular order now. These are straight from episode 62, my NBA playoff team predictions. So let's go. In the Eastern Conference, I predicted these teams would make the playoffs. The Milwaukee Bucks, Boston Celtics, Toronto Raptors, the Philadelphia 76ers, the Brooklyn Nets, the Indiana Pacers, the Miami Heat, and the Washington Wizards. I said those 8 teams would make the playoffs. That includes the play-in tournament. I felt that was my 8. And looking at the reality of it, it's solid. My reality, these are in order. Reality is in order. So predictions not in order, reality in order. So this is how it's shaked out. 76ers are the 1 seed. Nets 2 seed. Bucks 3. Knicks 4. That is a team I did not have. Hawks 5. That is a team I did not have. The Heat 6. The Celtics 7. And the Wizards 8. Now, I had the Hawks as a fringe playoff team. I said they would be in that play-in tournament zone. They were not. They're a flat-out 5 seed. The Knicks, I did not even think this season would be sniffing the playoffs, not even the play-in tournament. I will go on the record and I will admit that I did not think the Knicks will make the playoffs, much less be sniffing the play-in tournament this season. But here they are, the 4 seed. Julius Randle having an amazing season. The kid quickly having an amazing season. I mean, Tom Thibodeau just coming in, getting these young guys be able to buy in, play some good defense. This is a really good defensive team. Being good on offense. Did not see them making that. So the only two that I didn't get right were the Knicks and the Hawks. I thought the Raptors and the Pacers would make it. The Pacers had themselves in position. They were in the playoff tournament. They ended up getting just absolutely crushed by the Wizards Thursday night. Hey, that game was over long before the fourth quarter happened. I think Westbrook gave his shoes away with like 9 minutes or something like that left in the fourth quarter. That's how far ahead the Wizards were in that last play-in game to get the 8th seed. So the Wizards make it, and I thought they would, and they're right in that zone where I thought they would be. I thought they'd be lower tier. But I did not have the Knicks making it. The Hawks, I'm not really as surprised. Again, I had them as a fringe playoff team. I thought they'd be in that play-in range, but again, they weren't. They're a flat-out 5 seed, but the Knicks are the real shock here. I think the only other thing that could be shocking about this are the seedings. I knew once Doc Rivers got to the 76ers that they would be upper tier Eastern Conference. I wasn't sure if they would be 1, but I thought they would definitely be top 4. The Nets don't shock me being at number 2. I thought they'd be 2 or 1, and that's way before they got James Harden. The Bucks at 3 doesn't really surprise me. Again, you had a whole roster overturn, so and no preseason really, and a really shortened training camp. So they're right around that zone again. I thought they would be top 4, top 3, really, realistically, and that's exactly what happened. But I was pretty spot on. Only 2 teams that I did not really foresee being in the playoffs making it, the Knicks and the Hawks. The Raptors and the Pacers did not make it. The Raptors, just absolutely terrible season for them. The Pacers had a shot to get themselves in, but they did not. But overall, pretty solid on the Eastern Conference side of things. Let's check out the Western Conference side of things. Again, the predictions are in no particular order. We have the Lakers, the Nuggets, Clippers, Mavs, Jazz, Suns, Blazers, Warriors. Those were my predictions before the NBA season began. Again, this is from episode 62 of Toss. You can go back and listen to it. If you don't believe me, it's all there. It's on tape. So there's no running from it. There's no hiding from it. It's there. I am on the record. Now, let's see how it shakes out. Now, at this point, as we record this program, the Western Conference 8th seed play-in game has not happened. So we do not know the 8th seed right now. It will either be Golden State or Memphis. So I'm either going to be right or I'm going to be wrong, because I did not have Memphis making the playoffs at all, but they have themselves in position to make a shot, or to have a shot at making it into the playoffs. But let's see where it is. Now, the reality is in order. Again, these seedings are in order when I'm talking about the reality of where the playoff tree stands. Utah Jazz are the 1 seed. Phoenix Suns are the 2 seed. Denver Nuggets are the 3. LA Clippers are the 4. Dallas Mavericks 5. Portland Blazers 6. The Lakers, in an incredible play-on game. Man, that was some really good basketball played there. Are the 7th seed. They beat the Golden State Warriors. And then again, as we record this program, the 8th seed play-in tournament game has not been played yet. That will be played on Friday night. We're recording this program on a Thursday. It's either going to be Golden State or Memphis. So I'm really solid on this. I am only, while we are awaiting the results of that game again, which won't be played till Friday, I'm either going to be right or I'm going to be wrong, and I'm only going to have one wrong. I knew the Jazz were going to make it. They're a really good team. I did not see them being the number 1 seed, but man, they play really, really well on both ends of the court, especially defensively. I even said on episode 62, is that 8-0 run by the Suns a precursor to what we're going to see, or was it a flash in the pan? When they acquired Chris Paul, I said, okay, that it's probably a precursor to what we're going to see. Chris Paul's not going to let them slip and let that be a flash in the pan. They're going to be really good this season. I just did not think they would be number 2 in the Western Conference good. I knew they'd be top 4 maybe with that acquisition, but never, ever did I see them being top 2. So congrats to them. They're going to have their work cut out for them. The Nuggets at 3, that's really where I thought they'd be. The Clippers at 4, again, really where I thought they would kind of be. The Mavs at 5, that's about right. The Blazers at 6, that's about right. The Lakers I thought would definitely be higher. I thought they'd be 1 or 2. But, missing Anthony Davis and LeBron James and Kyle Kuzma at times. And, they just had a rash of injuries with a lot of guys. Sometimes it'd be like that. But they got right. They got healthy at the right time and won the games that they needed to. Almost slid themselves completely out of playoff range, but righted the ship just in time to get into a play-in tournament. And they handled business against Golden State. That was a really, really intense game. Really, really well-played game. Golden State coughed it up, though. They had single-digit turnovers in the first half, double-digit turnovers in the second half. That was really the story of the game. They don't turn the ball over that many times in the second half of the ball game. They're able to milk clock. They're able to score. They don't allow the Lakers back into it. But that's not what happened, and now they need to play an extra game to get into the playoffs. But I'm really intrigued by the matchups. I think there's a little bit more unpredictability in the Western Conference than there is in the Eastern Conference. So let's talk first round predictions. And we're going to take this round by round. We're not going to solve the whole playoff tree and who I think is going to come out the East and the West, who I think is going to make the finals and who's going to be an eventual champion. No, we'll take it on a round by round basis. Look at the matchups, how they're playing, what teams are healthy, and we'll take it from there. So first round predictions. In the Eastern Conference, I have the Sixers over the Wizards. I just think overall the Sixers are a better team than the Wizards. I think the Wizards might make it interesting for stretches. I don't think this is a sweep by any stretch of the imagination. I think the Wizards could get a game against Philly. But I think Philadelphia is just really too good. They're really just too good. So I got the Sixers over the Wizards. I have the Nets over the Celtics. That is a game that is a series that I would be surprised if the Nets sweep the Celtics, and I wouldn't be surprised if that series went at least 6 games. I really wouldn't. And that's just because the Celtics are so up and down. Now, with them being without Jaylen Brown, who's out for the season with an injury, it makes them a little bit more inconsistent. Jason Tatum can't go out there and drop 50 burgers, every game of the series and think they're going to win. It's just not a good formula. Nets, I mean, you got 2 former MVPs, Kevin Durant, James Harden. You got a couple of former world champions, Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving. I mean, what do you do with that? And then Joe Harris, who's just an absolute sniper from outside. I mean, what do you do with that? I just don't think the Celtics have enough. Not this season. So I got the Nets over the Celtics. I already said it. I have the Bucks in 6. And that's just how it rolls around here. In the great state of Wisconsin. It's Bucks in 6. Doesn't matter if you think they're going to sweep the series or not. It's Bucks in 6. Now, I'm not saying that I think the Bucks are going to sweep the Heat. They're not. But I'm still going to say it's Bucks in 6. So I have the Bucks moving on. And the Knicks Hawks series is one that really intrigues me. Got a couple of young teams here. A couple of teams that have been in the playoffs for a little bit. Young guys. not a whole lot of playoff experience amongst the two teams. Who do you roll with? This series in the Eastern Conference presents a higher chance for a lower seed upset of a higher seed. I would not be surprised if the Hawks came up and bit the Knicks. Would not be surprised by that. I think these two teams are very evenly matched, but I just think the Knicks are better defensively than the Hawks are. And for all the outside shooting they have with Trae Young and with Bogdanovich, for all the outside shooting they have, I just think the Knicks a little bit more physical, especially defensively, can grind it out offensively. I think the Knicks get that series. So I think the 4 top seeds in the Eastern Conference hold serve. The Sixers move on. The Nets move on. The Bucks move on. And the Knicks move on. Let's go over to the Western Conference, where I think there may be more potential, as I said before, more potential for upsets in this conference than the Eastern Conference. So let's look at the matchups. Now, right now, currently, it will be the Jazz at the 1. We don't know if it's going to be Golden State or Memphis. Now, the Jazz are a really, really good team. Another team that plays extremely well on both ends of the court. If it's a Memphis series who also grind it out, who also play a little bit of defense and can grind it out a little bit, I think the Jazz win that one just because of their talent alone. But if it's Golden State, now you have to ask yourself some questions about that one. Now, I know Golden State has been up and down, but you still got Steph Curry, who could possibly win his 3rd MVP. And on the record, I still think Nikola Jokic is the MVP. He hasn't missed any games. He played all 72, and he was fantastic in every single one of them. That's consistency. Embiid missed a whole chunk of games. Steph Curry missed a whole chunk of games. He's been there the entire time and been the most consistent out of all of them, most impactful out of all of them. I got to go with Jokic, but that's neither here nor there. If it is Golden State that grabs that 8th seed over Memphis in the 8th seed in the 8th seed Western Conference play-in tournament game, the pit, I may have to revise this pick, but right now I got the Jazz. Again, they play well on both ends of the court. That's not to say that Golden State doesn't. They do. But we don't know if it's going to be Golden State. Memphis plays pretty decently defensively, but I think they're a little bit more offensive-laden team. And I think the Jazz can really put a halt to that. So that 1-8, it's undecided right now. But I got the Jazz moving on. 2-7 is the Suns, Lakers. Lakers open up Vegas betting as the favorites. The favorites over the 2 seed. I had the Lakers being the 1 or the 2 seed. The only reason why they were not is because, again, their 2 major stars got injured. AD, LeBron. They're back now. If they can stay healthy, they are the number 1 defensive team in all of the NBA. The Lakers are. I think they can get that series. It may go 6. Could possibly go 7. When the Lakers are healthy, they're a really good team. The Suns team is really good. They find a way to win. But I think that's going to come down to defense and big possessions. And you got some guys that have not been there before. Chris Paul has been there. He's been through many playoff battles. But Devin Booker's never been there. DeAndre Ayton has never been there. You know, there's some guys that just don't have the experience, that just have not been there. That counts for something in the playoffs. I think the Lakers get that series. And it is contingent on the health of LeBron James and Anthony Davis. If those guys stay healthy, I do not see them losing 4 times in 7 games. I don't see it. I don't see it. So I got the Lakers moving on. The 3-6 battle. Nuggets, Blazers. I kind of went back and forth on this one. Jamal Murray's not there for the Nuggets. Blazers have been so up and down. They've been playing a little bit better as of late, held on to that 6th seed so they wouldn't fall down into that play-in tournament range. I've got to go Nuggets on this one. I think Jokic is going to be a little bit too much for that Blazers team to contend with. I love Dame. I think Dame could go out there and have a huge series. Typically does. He's a great playoff performer. I think that series is close. I would not be surprised if it goes 6 or 7, but I think the Nuggets will pull that one out. And then in the 4-5 matchup, you have the Clippers and the Mavericks. Again, this is contingent on health. How much is Kawhi Leonard going to play? Is he healthy? And is he fully healthy? Does Paul George stay healthy? Do they get enough out of everybody else around them? I think the Clippers get that series. I do, and I think that will be another close series. But honestly, in the Western Conference, all those series can go either way. I think that conference has potential to be so upset laden. I wouldn't be surprised if 2 lower seeds beat 2 higher seeds. I just think that it's going to be that kind of parity over there in that conference. I mean, I'm uneasy just looking at it. I'm like, man, do I need to go and change some of these predictions? Should I take the eraser to these predictions and write different teams in? But I'm just excited for playoff basketball. I hope you are all excited for playoff basketball. It's time, y'all. It's time. Playoffs are here. Fear the Deer season is here. I feel it in my blood. I'm just excited for it. It all gets going on Saturday. Enjoy these games. Enjoy these playoffs, y'all. Stay safe. And that'll do it for me, y'all. That was episode 82 of the Tristain Sports Show. Toss at the 20 double on social media. That's at the number 2, the number 0, and the word double on both Instagram and Twitter. Follow me there. Facebook.com/T on Sports Show. That's TON Sports Show. That's the Toss Facebook page where we touch on a lot of things there that we don't necessarily get to on the show. So that's Facebook.com/T on Sports Show. And you all know the website, TossNationMedia.com. It's your home for the Toss brand of sports. Truthful, opinionated, passionate sports. It's what you deserve. But as I said before, it's time for me to get on up out of here. This is T-Squared, Tristan Thomas, reminding all of you to keep it moving forward. Always forward. Forward always. Until next week. So long from Toss.